So I'm going to show you how to make multiple setups on one part. So for instance, this rail right here, this top part has a bunch of holes straight down the middle, but the side has holes in different patterns, right? So in order to machine this, we're going to have to make two different setups. So let's start by doing a setup. I'll do the top rail first. So I'm going to, my machine is already selected. I'm going to fix the orientation. So I like to do Z-axis plane and X-axis. So my Z-axis plane, it's already set up, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. So I click Z-axis plane and X-axis. Z-axis, I'm going to select this face, and then X-axis is lit up now, so my X-axis is going to be the bottom edge right there. And so notice it didn't change because it was already like that, right? So that one was easy. So my origin is always, the way we do it, is always the model box point. And then the box point, once you click that, see how this lights up? Now I can go down and I can select that bottom left corner. So in the machine, it's going to be set up like that. Okay, so now I have that part of the setup done. I don't need to mess with any of this other stuff. I'm going to go to stock and always no additional stock. And now this setup is done. So I'm going to click OK. This setup, because I'm going to make two setups, I don't want to just leave it setup 3, setup 4. So I'm going to rename it to be, let's say, top rail. And then hit enter. So I know that this setup is for the top. Okay. So let's go do, like if I was going to do a boring operation on it. So I could click up here, 2D bore, and find my tool. I need the 4mm flat end mill. So yours, always the 4mm flat end mill for what we're doing in class. Not going to mess with the feeds and speeds. I'm going to go to geometry, and I can pick one of the holes and then do select same diameter, and now I got all the holes. And I'm going to change my height, my bottom height. I need to go through, so it's going to be negative 0.02. And then my passes, I'm going to change my angle to 5 degrees so that it cuts a little more aggressively. And then that should be everything you need. So press OK, and there's the bore operation for the top rail. Okay, so now how do I do the side rail? To do the side rail, I need to make another setup. So I'm going to click on the top one, and I'm going to go setup. And I've got a new setup. So see how here's top rail, and then the bore operations underneath it. And then I have another setup that I'm going to do. So now this one, I'm going to do this face. So in order to do this one, I need to make this face be the Z. So let's go, my machine is selected, orientation, Z-axis plane and X-axis. So in this case, my Z-axis is going to be this face, because this is the face that I'm machining. Before it was this one, now it's going to be this one. So there's my Z, and now my X-axis is going to be this edge right there. So I click that, and let me see if I can orbit this a little bit. How can I do this? There we go, like this. This is what it's going to look like in the machine. Let me zoom out a little bit. So I need to get this origin down here to the corner. So first, let me flip my X. If I just click on the arrow, it flips the X. So now it's lined up right. And now I can go choose my origin, model box point, and I can pick this bottom left corner. And now my setup is done. So I have a setup for this one. Even though it's not in the origin that I had on my design, I've made the setup say that this is my origin. All right, so again, go to stock. You can leave it, it says from previous or for preceding setup, because that means it'll take what we had before. See how there's no additional stock on there? So you don't even have to change that. And everything else looks good, so I'm going to press OK. And there is my second setup. So this setup, the other one was top rail. This one I'm going to call side rail. You need to give them different names so that you can tell which setup you're using when you go post your G-code. All right, so then for my side rail, I could do the same thing. Let me make sure side rail is selected. I can do a bore operation and then click that, and then I'd have to go choose my tool, right, and then do the same thing with my heights, right? Your heights and your passes. Change your angle to 5 degrees, change your height to negative 0.02. But that's how you do multiple setups. And so you can look at your part. If I go back to the main thing, here's my top rail. You have to kind of orbit it around, but see, there's my orientation for the top rail. That's how I'm going to put it in. And then to do the side rail, if I click on this one, that's my setup. That's my orientation. So you can do multiple setups. If all 4 of these things were different, you could make a setup for every different part, every different face of that part. Very useful.